All right, so new expectations I want to go over. All right, so in your notebook, this is what needs to happen, okay? You need to have the date and the name of whatever session we're doing. It doesn't necessarily have to be what I'm saying it is, but it needs to be the date and the name of the session. I'm naming this session Perspective, just so you know, so that might be the title that you want to do, and the date is the 17th of February. Then you're going to draw a line under that. This is going to help me to notice your work a little better and make sure that all the pieces are there. Remember I said the first week it's just doing the work, and then the expectations will start increasing to see what we're doing. All right. Underneath that, when I show the questions, that's where your answers should be. Okay, your first answers. Then you draw another line. Then the space underneath that is going to be for your brain dump. Okay? And I should say this. You could also put the answers there again. Like remember that we go over them again, or you can put them back up here. That'll be your choice. Okay? Underneath the brain dump, there is going to be many times where I'm going to ask you to do the work that I've done just to practice it. Okay, it's called active engagement. It gives you the chance to try out the process that I just taught you, and to talk to your partner about it. That way that you can be the social animals that you are and learn from each other and talk about it and also try it out to see what works and what doesn't. That one will be called Your Turn. You don't need to title it, but you do need to draw a box around it. Okay? You do need to draw a box around it. I'm going to go over these expectations every day for the next 2 days just so we get it, and I'll end with the expectations too. Today it's perspectives, but I'll show you that. What's that total? Yeah, I mean, that's fine too. As long as there's some separation. If you want to circle stuff and make it even better, that's great. If you want to use different colors, that's so bad. Yeah, so let's say this. As long as you come up with something that I look at it and I know what I'm looking at, great. Okay, it's starting to get to a point now where I'm not sure what I'm looking at in some people's notebooks, and I want to make sure I know what I'm looking at. Okay? And then that's just going to make life easier for you when you're trying to find something. Well, what was that strategy again? What was that again? What was I supposed to do with that? That was list, connect, and organize. So then you go back to that lesson and you use it. I know that probably not a lot of us do that, but that's why you have a notebook, is to go back in and look at it and go, yeah, these are the expectations. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah.
So what you need to do is put the answers of the question, the breakdown, and
the title and date. Today's the 17th of February. Alrighty. So, what is one of the best ways to come up with your own ideas about perspectives and everything else to add to your historical report? That's the question. And that's going to be what we're looking at today. Again, you are not supposed to know this, but maybe you do. And again, I am recording the lesson, so if you're someone who just wants to rewatch it later, you can do that as well. Bless you. Bless you. Alrighty. But you don't have to copy down the question. Remember, you can just go, remember, a good response has the question, isn't it? So you can say, one of the best ways to come up with your ideas is this. A good response has the question in it. All right, so we have looked at maps. Okay, we have done some research. We've read a little bit. From there, we collect facts. Okay, and a lot of times we just transfer those facts from the one thing to our page. A lot of times our rough drafts just have a lot of facts on it. And remember yesterday, when I was doing my revision list, I was like, do I even have any perspectives in this? And I don't think that I do. And so I wanted to start to push myself about how am I going to include them? Am I going to try and find quotes? Or can I do it a different way? And so I'm going to show you a different way that you can do it. So once I have these facts all listed, I then need to come up with some questions. I need to do some wonderings of my own, because when I do the wondering and the question, I then provide an answer. And once I provide an answer to my own question, I have added thinking. Okay? The cool part is this, and this is very, very important, because this can stress people out, if you can believe it. And the reason it can stress people out is because they think they have to be right. Okay? Let me tell you, you don't have to be right. You just have to be like realistic. You just have to be informed. You can't be like, well, I think that the race of space aliens came down. And I mean, there is some thought about something about that with Egypt, but we're not going to get into that today. All right? As long as it's realistic, it's within the realm of possibilities. Don't go talking about the multiverse and Thanos or anything like that. Okay, or the time travel, Doctor Strange. Don't talk about Doctor Strange, popping things and going back and like changing. Like, don't do that. That would be cool if you're doing like a side project. Great. Okay, but for a historical report, we want to keep it in reality. All right, so I'm going to try this out. I have this entry, or this is part of my report about the Incas. So I have, before Columbus accidentally found the Americas, two great empires had grown. The Incan Empire stretched southward from present-day Ecuador for thousands of miles south to Chile. They used a powerful army to rule this land through fear. I have some nice facts here. There is no thinking whatsoever. I have taken these words from somewhere else and put them. I haven't plagiarized, but I put them through my mind. I haven't added anything. Okay? Now it's my job to add stuff. So I need to wonder some things into the question. So what could I wonder? Man, I could wonder how an empire must feel when it gets defeated. How would the ruler feel once it all went away? Because I know it went away. I could wonder about the process. Man, it must have been really hard to go from like Ecuador all the way down to Chile. I mean, this is thousands of miles, thousands of kilometers. Like, how did they do that? They must have been very strong, very powerful people to have taken control of that large of an area. And then this other thing about ruling through fear. I wonder at the end if they regretted that. I wonder at the end if they would have thought about a different way to rule. Because a lot of times when you rule with fear, if you rule your friends with fear, or you rule a place with fear, or you rule people with fear, at the end of the day, they reject that. Okay? At the end. A lot of times they'll pretend and put up with it for a while. But at the end, usually there's a revolt or a revolution of some sort. Okay? So, what could I add to this? I think I'm going to go with that, this idea of fear. So I could put something like, I wonder why the Incas decided to use fear to control their people. Maybe it was because that was the only thing they knew how to do. And maybe at the end of it, they were very regretful for that. Something like that. Do I have to be right? No. Does it have to be within the realm of possibility? Yes. So I use words like maybe, possibly, might, could be, maybe. Okay? Now I want you to try it. So, now I messed this up. I know. Hold on a second. I think I originally thought I wanted to do the your turn after the brain dump, but then I changed my mind because I thought you doing the your turn would make your brain dump better. So, and then I forgot I made that decision because stuff happens. All right. So at this point, whatever the your turn is, you're gonna like put a border out, circle it, put a square on it after you do this work, and then your brain dump will be underneath. Okay. Cool. Awesome. All right. So here's the text. The text is this. In March of 1519, Hernan Cortes and his army marched west from the coast of Mexico toward present-day Mexico City to fight the Aztecs. His army was made up of 11 ships, 550 men, and 16 horses. This would be the first battle for control of this area of the world. Nice paragraph, some good information, but no thinking. So what I want you to try to do is to come up with some thinking. And you can use any of these prompts over here, like this makes me think, I'm realizing this might be important, I wonder if, could it be that? Probably after a while, for example, it must have been probably that. So you could put yourself in the place of the conquistadors, you could put yourself in the place of the Aztecs, okay? Whatever, you could put yourself in the place of a horse. Good. That would be interesting. What was the horse doing? The horse had no control over anything. Could it go and watch people get brutalized and murdered? Not great. Sure, it had some effect on the horse. So take a moment, about 2 minutes. We'll give you 2 minutes to do some writing, then you're going to share that with your partner. Be sure to put a box around it. Ask yourself a question. Try and answer. Another minute. All right, so in a moment, you're going to share what you think and what thoughts you came up with your partner. Now, I do want to I've been a lousy job of defining partnerships and like talking about how important they are and what the expectations are. All right? I mean, I know I mentioned it, but I do need to make sure that we understand. All right? Your job is to make each other better. Your job is to help each other. When you talk about an idea you have that your partner is listening, it probably changes an idea they have, or it adds to it, or mixes together, making their thinking and their writing better. These are important conversations. I've also started to notice that when we finish our conversation, some of us start to wander around the room. Okay, so that's something that we can't do because then that distracts other people's conversation. And so this is the order. I will give you time to share your work with each other and what your thoughts are. If you finish that before I say stop, then you can talk about what you remember about the mini lesson. Okay? You can almost practice a brain dump. Or you can quiz each other on some content about social studies or writing. Okay, what's the strategy for this? Okay, so you have plenty of things that you can do to help each other out. And you can choose those. Again, there's no stopping to the conversation. It's not over until I call time. And I'll let you have time to wrap up that conversation. Any questions about those expectations? Can you live with those expectations, Elisa?
I can live with it.
Vicente? Vicente? Man. Isa? Victor? Lisa? Go! Camilo? Grande. Dave. Can you live with it? The partner work and everything? All right, so at this point, share your work with your partner. Turn it off.
This may be important because
Alright, three. Wrapping up the conversations. For some reason, I see people walking around. Lori? Bloody. Bloody is a swear word in Britain. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Thanking your partner. Thank you, Gabe. Yeah. All right. Cool. Yep.
Ring.
Remember to have clearly marked areas in your lesson. We research, we collect clues, we ask you questions, and then we answer those questions. That's the basic format of the process. Speaking about research, that's another thing that you can be doing during this time. By next week, I will have created kind of an interactive thing that will help with the research. However, if you feel the need to gather some more information, you may. You might be thinking, well, if I do research, I can't be writing. Au contraire, mon frère. You can be taking notes. So your notes would be the writing for today. Right? So if you collect a page of notes, great. Okay, does that make sense? That would count. What is the best way to take notes? Pausing and writing what you remember. And then checking it. And then you look at it again. It's a long process. That's why it's called research. You do it over and over and over again. Like revision. Like you look at your work again and again and again. I know sometimes you're like, man, so you're saying some of these processes never end and I need to read and learn all the time? Yeah. Not all the time. The more you do, the better it is. Well, remember they are combined. This was officially a writing lesson. I'm going to be checking in with anyone who needed to catch up. You received a message yesterday, and I will be trying to look at everybody's work. You will need to turn in your writing at the end of today. So your drafts, whatever you've worked on, I'm going to take a look at it over the weekend. If you're like, Mr. Light, please don't do that. Please let me work over the weekend, then you will need to talk to me later, not right now. And then the last thing. For those of you who have not turned in the homework that was due today, remember to turn that in as well. All right, enjoy yourselves. Donkey shorts.